Hey guys, here we are again. I like do 3 or 4 live streams in quick succession, then I don't do another one for 3 weeks. But that's the way it goes. Okay, so I found a really interesting article today in the Lancashire Evening Post. So we're going to go through that because they detail a case very similar to that of Nicola Bulley. So this is relating to the Nicola Bulley disappearance, but it's just looking at it from, I guess, a different lens. So I'm hoping that I don't need to get angry today, and I'll keep the snark down. I'm not promising to keep the snark down, but I'll try. I'll try. Okay, let's just say a few hellos whilst people are coming in, because I didn't give much notice for this live. I was going to do it at 5, but then I put it forward half an hour. So, yeah, and I'm probably not going to be on for as long as I have been over the last few lives because the Murdoch trial. I'm in the middle of the Murdoch trial today, so yeah, Beth. Thank you for the $4.99, shooting in very early with a donation. Thank you so much. Down under with love. Who has no life and he's already here waiting. You sleep less than I do. You must be in the middle of the night where you are, and you sleep less than I do. Hi, Holly, Aussie TV. She is 45. I'm not really sure. I think it's odd though. Nicola would have been a baby when the case of Roger Jones happened. 27th of January is also my dad's birthday, but I don't think that's odd. It's just a day. Jane, hello. Diane, Elise, Stephen, Lisa, Joanne, Amy Lou, Samantha, Beth, Jackie, Angelia, Karen, Twiggy Kilt Jennifer. That's cool. Isabel, another Lancashire lass. Anonymous. We've got Anonymous in the house. Bug Love. Hi, Bug Love. Don't forget to like the stream. Just gets it boosted up in the algorithm a little bit. Beach Fairy. Yeah. Yeah, yesterday. Yeah. 2:30. Wow. Well, it's not that bad then. You can go to bed after this. Sherry, Miss T, Debbie, said Jackie, haven't I? Another Lisa, Dawn, Whoopsie Daisy, Doodle Mom, Shazza, and JC. Hello from Florida. And that's it. That's all we've got in the house so far. I've got right down to the end of the chat. I don't normally get to the end of a chat, but maybe people are watching the Murdoch trial, or maybe they're getting sick of me banging on about this case. But given that it's local to me, it's certainly the most local case that I've been able to talk about whilst I've been running a YouTube channel. I mean, we've had serious crimes much closer to home. Nicola disappeared about 25 miles kind of to the northwest of where I live. You know, we had a murder in this village going back in the 1990s. We had a murder just down the road in the next village. So we've had a few. The murder in this village was pretty high profile at the time, but it was the days before social media. And yeah, I went to the murder scene and but well before the days of social media. So this case has really gripped me because it is so local, and I've been able to, instead of it being 4,000 miles away in America, I've actually been able to go and actually see for myself the spot where Nikki was last seen, and also the spot where the police believe she fell into the river. Now, I know that there is a lot of opposition to the river theory. I know there is. Somebody put a poll on Twitter last night, and I wish I took a screenshot of it because I can't find it now. I don't know whose account it was or anything. I just can't find it now. I wish I'd just taken a screenshot. But it was, what do you believe happened to Nicola Bulley? And then it was fell in the river, abducted, walked away of her own volition. I think there was another option as well. I can't remember. And overwhelmingly, it was like over 70% of that poll, certainly when I voted anyway, was that she was abducted. So I'm not in the majority. I'm in the minority, the absolute minority in this case. But I can't shake it. I can't shake it. I can't see. Having been there and walked all around that area, retraced Nicola's steps and back, I can't see. I can't see how she could have been abducted. I just can't see it. And I tried my best to find a way whilst I was there, but I couldn't. So, yeah. But whichever way, I think you're right, Holly. I don't think she left of her own volition. It was just a normal day, I think, for Nicola. A normal Friday. So, okay, let's share this case here. So this was from the evening, used to be called the Lancashire Evening Post, because we used to read, my dad used to get the Evening Post every day, used to come through our door. But now they seem to have just changed it to the Lancashire Post. But anyway, what's in a name? Now, this is a family who've been very, I guess, really affected by Nicola's case, because exactly the same thing happened to them. And the Lancashire Post has interviewed the brother of Roger Jones. Roger Jones was just 16 when he went missing. And it's an absolutely tragic story. It was like one of those freak accidents, and you probably couldn't try to do it again. If a stuntman tried to replicate what happened to Roger Jones, you probably couldn't do it. It was one of those just freak accidents. But also, it was compounded by the river being really high. But we'll get into that. It's a really interesting yet tragic story of Roger Jones. And for me, thinking about Nicola's case, it just shows you how powerful nature is and how fragile life is. That's the thing I took away from this story. So that's why I wanted to share Roger's story. And also it might help people understand why there's so much effort gone into finding Nicola in the river. It just might help put it into perspective and get people to understand who maybe don't live near nature. If you've always lived in a city, you don't necessarily always appreciate the power of nature, or how much a river can swell and then just disappear. Like the creek that's near me, sometimes it's really high. It doesn't often flood, but sometimes it's really high, and other times it's literally a trickle. And it's just nature. That's just the way nature is. And certainly, in the northwest of England, there's large parts of it around West Lancashire and then up to the Fylde coast where the River Wyre estuaries into, it's very flat. So the tides are very powerful. And they can create devastation. You know, if you happen to be there when the tide turns, you're going to die. You're going to die. But it's also an area that inland, it's very hilly. And there's lots of waterways. You know, you can't walk very far in Lancashire or Cumbria without seeing water, whether that's a little stream, a creek, a brook, a river, or all of them, and canals as well. We're peppered with canals because of the Industrial Revolution. So there's lots of water around us. So let's read through what the Lancashire Post has said. Nature does always find a way, Bug Love, and we've really got to respect it. But also at the same time, freak accidents happen. However careful you are, you know, you can fall and break your leg for, you know, walking downstairs. How many thousands of people die or get injured in being knocked over by cars, even though you're taught when you're little to look both ways before you cross the road. Do you know what I mean? It's like accidents happen, and we can't forget that either. And sometimes it's just the simplest explanation. Even if it's a freak accident, it's still the simplest explanation. But let's read this article here. And when we get to the part where they describe the location, then I'll get the map up and I'll show you exactly where this event occurred and how far away this was from the coast. So we know a family's pain, says Preston family who lost a son in the same stretch of river on the same day 45 years ago. So I think it being the 27th of January is just a coincidence. However, it being winter, I don't think is a coincidence. I think if Roger's situation had happened in summer, I don't think he would have ended up where he ended up. I don't know, but that's just my suggestion, I guess. So, where are all these adverts coming from? Lancashire Post, it's adverts all over it. It's like every paragraph it has an advert. Jamie says, low tide was 9:30, so tide was turning coming back when she supposedly went in. She would not have been taken downstream when first divers were in the river searching. Yeah, but she'd have been far enough away. The low tide at Markham was 9:52 because I did check. So the weir where the river becomes tidal would have been pulling towards the sea. So the alarm, as I talked about in my live yesterday, the alarm wasn't sounded. And I talked in my video this morning as well. So I put a video out over on Michelle After Dark, going over some of the things that I talked in my live. So go and watch that. It's like a condensed version of some of the information I talked through on my live yesterday. So if you don't want to sit through 2 hours, you can just sit through 25 minutes. So the tide going out, the fact that the alarm that Nicola was missing wasn't sounded until 10:50, in my opinion, gave her body the opportunity to get round that bend and on that stretch to the weir. So she was in the wrong location. She was in a different location, shall we say, than the police first started searching. That's just my opinion. Wonder if there's any covered up potholes in the field. Really suspicious of the house close by having secret passages. I don't think I don't think the house has secret passages. It would be cool if it did, because I'd love a house with secret passages. Potholes. It seemed pretty well maintained, that field, honestly. And there's been flood defences built up. So I can't imagine, given how well maintained it is, that there would be hidden potholes that people wouldn't know about. There you go, only grands. I've got 5-inch steel plate and 13 screws in my ankle because of a freak accident. Wow. I know. I know, Isabel. Time Warp conspiracy theorists would be going mad over this. I know. A rod in your femur now because you gave someone a piggyback and fell over. Oh my God. Yeah, my friend broke her leg in 4 places, tripping over like a path in her garden. She had like, you know, where you have like the edge of a path, like a little raised up bit sometimes, if you've got like plants and stuff. She tripped over that, and it's not more than, I'd say, 3 inches high. She tripped over and broke her leg in 4 places. It's been renovated, it's been searched. Anyway, let's get on with this. So it's 45 years ago to the very day that 16-year-old Roger Jones vanished in the River Wyre after being catapulted into the water in a motorcycle crash. But he didn't start off in the River Wyre. The River Wyre is actually miles away. And this is why it's important to look at the map. So the student from Fulwoods, who was still at school, I think, swept away in a fast-flowing brook which fed into the River Wyre, just yards upstream from where Nicola's mobile phone was found. His body was not discovered until 2 months later, washed up on a sandbank at low tide near to the Shard Bridge, 7 miles from St. Michael's. Now, those of you who've been sitting in my lives, my last few lives, I've showed you Shard Bridge. So I'll show you Shard Bridge again. It's an area coming up to the estuary that is, it's just sandbanks. And when it's low tide, the river, apart from like one channel where the river kind of carries on flowing, it's all exposed. It's just sand. It's just built up so much. And there was some activity at Shard Bridge the other night because we had someone who was actually there, like the boots on the ground person who was telling us what was going on in the chat. And then a couple of miles upstream from that, there is a place called Shippool, which again is full of sandbanks. And then it gets into the estuary, which is very silty. And that feeds into Morecambe Bay. So we'll get to the map in a second. I just want to kind of give you the picture, give you the scene. As the mystery surrounding the disappearance of the 45-year-old mother of 2 has been hitting the nation's headlines, it has brought back harrowing memories for the Jones family, who lost the youngest of their 3 sons on that January night back in 1978. And this is Roger. Lost his life at the age of 16 in a freak accident. We feel so much for Nicola's family and friends. We know just what they must be going through, said Roger's brother Don Jones, who now lives near Lancaster. By some bizarre coincidence, it was January 27th when Roger went missing, the same day as Nicola, and he would have been washed past the spot where her phone was found. How many adverts? There were no social media back then, so we didn't have to put up with some of the nonsense that Nicola's family are having to deal with. At the moment, the world and his wife are having their say on it, trotting out all sorts of conspiracy theories, and that must be a nightmare for them to deal with. It must be, really. That sort of thing is really unhelpful. We didn't get any of that, although we had clairvoyants and spiritualists getting in touch, which proved very upsetting, especially for our mum. Where's Nicola? Roger, who was a pupil at what was Fulwood High School and had been hoping to go to Myerscough College to study agriculture to follow his dream of becoming a farmer. He had been returning home one night, so remember he's only 16. He'd been returning home one night as a pillion passenger on a friend's motorbike when they crashed into a car on a narrow bridge in Wood Plumpton near Preston. So I'm going to get the map in a second and show you where these places are. The bike rider was badly injured and unconscious when emergency services arrived and was unable to tell them that he had a passenger. This is what I mean. It's just so tragic that, yes, that he got treatment, the rider and the car, they got treatment. But because this bike rider was so badly injured and unconscious, he couldn't tell them that Roger had been a passenger on his bike. It's just so sad. And it was 3 a.m. before police were alerted that someone was missing and returned to the bridge, which was over a fast-flowing stream that was in flood. So this was just a stream. This wasn't the river. This was a stream. He fell in a stream. He fell over the bridge into a stream. This is what I'm saying. You couldn't recreate something like this. You know, if you got like a stunt person to fly over that bridge, you know, come off a bike and fly over that bridge, you know, would they float back? Would they flow downstream? Would they disappear downstream? We don't know. We don't know whether Roger was dead on impact and his dead body floated away, or he was alive. He could have been alive and that would have helped him flow because his body would be buoyant because he's got air in his lungs. So tragic, so tragic. And the other factor in this, there's two factors in this, which are both relevant to Nicola's case. Now, Nicola didn't fly over a bridge off a motorbike. She allegedly fell into the River Wyre. Roger fell into a stream, but it just so happened that there'd been rain, because it always rains. It does nothing else in Lancashire for the entirety of winter except rain. So those of you who watch my videos and see me walking by the creek near me, so its actual name is Tanyard Brook, and that can sometimes, like today, it was really low. It's like a trickle. Whereas other times it's high. You know, you'd lose your wellies, definitely. But it's really low at the moment. But sometimes when it's high, it does have power behind it. It's dead narrow, but it would have power behind it. So it just so happened that this stream that Roger was catapulted into had a flow behind it because it was in flood. The second thing was, it was hours. Now, it doesn't say what time this crash happened. It doesn't say what time the motorbike crashed into the car and Roger catapulted over the bridge. It doesn't say. But I presumably would have been several hours before police realised that someone was missing. So a combination of those factors has resulted in Roger literally floating away. And this is Don, who is Roger's brother, who is the one who gave the interview. So Don Jones believes Nicola, like his brother, could have been swept away after falling in the river. Okay, so I'm going to show you the map now before we go on to what happened in the search. So this is some. I've got it on satellite, not satellite view, the other view, straight like this view, because it shows. If I zoom in, it shows just how many waterways there are in a very, very small stretch of land. The northwest of England is all like this. It's creeks, brooks, streams, and they all ultimately feed into just a handful of rivers. Like all the streams near me ultimately feed into the River Yarrow, and then the River Yarrow feeds into the Ribble, which then feeds into the Irish Sea. Further north, the streams feed into the Wyre, the Lune, and they feed into Morecambe Bay. Sorry, you don't understand wellies, do you, some of you guys? Rain boots, like rubberish material, like rain boots, galoshes. Yeah, Wellington boots. I don't know why they're called Wellington boots. I've no idea why they're called wellies. I've no idea. But I keep forgetting to explain that term because so few people know what it is. Okay, so here's St. Michael's, where Nicola disappeared. That's the car boot set. Where's actually St. Michael's? There it is. Okay, so this is the River Wyre. All right. That's the confluence. So this is just upstream from where Nicola disappeared. If I put the satellite view on for just a second, it becomes more what we're used to looking at. That's where the bench is. And then that's where the confluence is. So the River Wyre comes from the north, and then it's fed into by the River Brock. So at this point, just a few, like 2-minute walk from where Nicola was, where Nicola's fawn and willow were found, the river benefits from an extra water source because the River Brock feeds into it. But where Roger disappeared from, where Roger went missing, is right down here. Right down here. So what's that? 6.5 miles to the south of St. Michael's. He disappeared from the village of Wood Plumpton, which is another little village. And he was on his way home to his home in Fulwood, which is a suburb of Preston. Fulwood's just down here. But Roger, the accident happened in Wood Plumpton. So it said he went over a bridge into a stream. So I'm not sure which stream, but whichever stream it was, it fed into the River Wyre. That's the canal. So that's the Lancaster Canal. So it's not that. I think it might be this one. I don't know. But it's one of the water sources that feeds into the Wyre. So a little stream. He fell into a little stream, which fed into the River Wyre further north. So we have to go all the way up and look at all these different, I mean, for his body to get from a little stream in Wood Plumpton all the way up to the River Wyre without being found is, I find it astonishing. But that's the power of nature. I'm afraid that is the power of nature. So whichever stream he fell into in the Wood Plumpton area, his body had to travel. It's 6.5 miles in a car. So let's say, even if it's only 5 miles straight, his body flowed into the River Wyre. That stream fed into the Wyre. No way. Which bridge and which stream in Wood Plumpton we're all the way to St Michael's. Like I said, there's the northwest of England is peppered with streams. Look, if I zoom in, there's so many of them. Like some of them go under roads. Like to track which one, I don't know which one. That's the canal, so we can exclude that. It could be that one that feeds up. They all go north. They all feed into the wire. The wire's here. So all these here are feeding the wire. There's so many of them. Look at them all. So whichever one, I think it's this one. It's just south of Subplumpton because that's slightly bigger. But it's impossible to tell. Impossible to tell from the map. Could be that one. If you, it's like following, like doing one of those, you know, kids do them. Like you have to track your way through a maze. You know, there's only one way through a maze and you have to track it through. Whichever one it was, fed into the River Wyre, which is here at St Michael's. So let's try and track one down. So if we go up the River Brock and go down this one, could go down here or down here, down there. No, that ends in a dead end. Go down there. I think it's this one. I think it's this one if there's a bridge, because it looks like there's a bridge there. So it's just south of Woodplumpton. I'm only surmising. Thank you, Roberta, for the $3.99. That's very kind of you. Very kind indeed. And little hippo looking shocked. I think it's possibly this one, Woodplumpton Road. And that's Woodplumpton Brook. So that will have a bridge. Yeah, that's got a bridge. So it could be that one. I'm thinking. So if we can track that all the way north, Woodplumpton Brook. Let's see where Woodplumpton Brook goes. So it's still going. It's going through Inskip. Woodplumpton Brook, still going, still going, still going, still going, still going, still going, getting a bit bigger. There you go. Feeds into the River Brock. Feeds into the Wyre. So I think he went off the bike over this bridge right down here. I think that seems to be the obvious place for me. So should we do that again? Right. There's a bridge. So it seems, because he was going to Fulwood, which is down here. Fulwood's just down here. So it makes sense that they'd be travelling on this road. It doesn't say specifically whereabouts in Woodplumpton it was, but this is Woodplumpton Road and this is Woodplumpton Brook. Right, so go back to this view and follow Woodplumpton Brook all the way up, all the way up. Keep going. Keep going. It's crazy. It's crazy. Keeps going. All right. Keep going. Oh my word. I'll zoom out a bit. All right, keep going. Keep going. And there you go. It feeds into the River Brock. And then that feeds into the River Wyre. So, 6 miles away from St Michael's, On January 27th, 1978, 16-year-old Roger Jones had a freak accident while he was a passenger on a motorbike. He was flung over a bridge into a brook, a stream, a little stream, but it was in flood at the time. So let's find out what happened next. So a huge search of the countryside downstream was launched, involving dog handlers and mounted police. Now, of course, in 1978, they didn't have drones. I don't know whether they had heat-seeking technology that was readily usable to the police. I don't know. But they searched for a long time. Police divers were brought in. Don, his brother Dave, and other members of the Jones family went out day after day looking for Roger. But eventually, the search had to be scaled back. It was awful, said Don, a former Lancashire Evening Post and Granada TV journalist. So he actually was a journalist. And what has happened at St. Michael's has brought it all back for our family. There are so many similarities, like the location, the date, the support from the public, yet there are so many differences too. By the time he was found, we had already come to the conclusion that Roger was in the river, and it was just a case of waiting for what seemed inevitable. As a family, we kept looking and hoping, although the general searches were eventually called off. Everyone was exhausted. It was Easter. So this happened on the 27th of January, and it was Easter when we heard a body had been found, and my brother and me were asked to go to Garstang police station to identify Roger's belongings. So that's the search for Nicola. I've seen the TV pictures of the river near where Nicola went missing, and it doesn't look that deep or fast flowing. But I've also looked on a website which charts river levels, and there had been a spike on January 26th, the day she disappeared, the day she vanished. I think the river conditions were pretty similar when Roger went missing, and he was obviously swept over the weir and into the tidal part of the river. Bear in mind, he did not fall into the River Wyre. He fell into a stream 6 miles away. 6 miles away, he fell into a stream. But that stream was high because it had been flooded. So not only did the body have to get over the weir, which people are struggling with the concept of a body going over the weir for some reason, Roger's body had to go 6 miles just to get into the River Wyre. But that's exactly what it did. It's desperately sad for Nicola's family. It must be a total nightmare for them, not knowing what has happened. Our thoughts and prayers are with them at this awful time. So Lancashire Police about the appeal for dashcam footage on the morning of the 27th. So they're still appealing for dashcam footage. We know, if you've been following this case, that she was actually last seen at 9:10, and then they know that her phone was at the bench with Willow at 9:20. Okay, so as the inquiry enters its 13th day today, around 60 officers were employed with either searching or combing through an enormous amount of information. Okay, the National Crime Agency has also examined the investigation by Lancashire Police and has also failed to identify any other suspicious lines of inquiry. So yesterday, the force once again rejected suggestions Nicola could have been a victim of crime, with detectives believing she's most likely fallen into the river. But still a possibility that where does it say where Roger? Oh, there we go. I've missed it. So I think the river conditions are pretty similar when Roger went missing, and he was obviously swept over the weir and into the tidal part of the river. He was found near the Shard Bridge, which is a fair distance away from St. Michael's. That's where Roger was found. So let's go back to the map. All right, so Nicola, the bench is here. Bench is here. So that's where the Fawn and Willow were. And the weir is here, down here. All right. So it's just a few hundred yards around the river bend to the weir, where it becomes tidal. But this current has already picked up because of the increase in water volume by the introduction of a second water source into the weir, which is the River Brock. Roger disappeared right the ways down here. Right the ways down here. Probably from this bridge. So Roger fell into a stream right here. Let's track it again, and let's track it this time all the way to Shard Bridge, because that's where his body was found at Easter. It was over 2 months. So let's keep going up and up. Oops. And up. And up into there. Okay, so gone all the way down there, all the way down there, all the way down there. Right. It's just a long way to travel in a stream before that stream feeds into the River Brock, which then feeds into the River Wyre. So Roger's body would have floated past the bench where Nicola went missing. Bench is here. So Roger's body went all the way down the River Wyre, kept going, kept going, kept going, kept going, and it kept going, and it kept going. And then let's find Shard Bridge. Shard Bridge is right here. So Roger's body went 6 miles from Wood Plumpton, from a little stream, all the way into the River Wyre, and then it went another 7 miles from the River Wyre in St. Michael's to the Shard Bridge. And the Shard Bridge is this bridge. If you've seen my lives in the last few days, we've been talking about Shard Bridge because it's just before the river estuaries into Morecambe Bay. And it's got massive sandbanks. If a body's in the Wyre, the chances of it washing up either at Shard Bridge, or if it gets past Shard Bridge at Shippool, which is another set of big sandbanks, are pretty high in my opinion. So Roger's body was found at Easter. So he'd been missing since January 27th. And he was found at Easter at Shard Bridge in one of the sandbanks. So for people to say that the river's too slow flowing where Nicola could have fallen in at the bench, well, you don't know what you're talking about. And I did say keep the snark down today. But you don't know what you're talking about because you don't understand the power of nature. Because if a 16-year-old young man can fall into a stream 6 miles away from St. Michael's, travel all the way up that stream into the River Wyre and then travel another 7 miles to be found here at Shard Bridge 2 months later, then I'm sorry, you don't understand nature. Is that the Lancaster Waterway where Roger fell in? No, I don't think so. No, it said it was a stream. I mean, if it was Lancaster Canal, then we can track that. We can track that as well if you want. But I don't know that the Lancaster Canal feeds into the Wyre. Might do. Let's have a look. It might do. Could be the Lancaster Canal. Let's do it this way. Is that the Lancaster Canal? I can't see. Yeah, that's the Lancaster Canal. All right, let's track the progress of Lancaster Canal. So the Lancaster Canal is here. So if Roger went in here at this bridge, so that's north of Woodplumpton, then does the Lancaster Canal feed into the Wyre? Might do. Let's have a look. Don't know if I'm still on the Lancaster Canal. No, that's the Lancaster Canal. Oh, it's so confusing. I can't read the writing. Let's just keep going up. Let's just keep going up. No, it doesn't feed into the Wyre. No, it's not the Lancaster Canal, because I'm all the way up north now. Hold on. Let me look up Lancaster Canal. My son might have got it wrong, because I really don't think the Lancaster Canal feeds the River Wyre. Lancaster Canal. Network map. I could be wrong, though, because I'm not an expert in linking Preston to Kendal. The Lancaster Canal is one of the country's few coastal canals. Built along the natural lie of the land, it offers 41 miles of lock-free cruising, the longest stretch in the country. So where does it go? Well, you're not giving me very much. So where is it? That's not helpful. Does anybody know if the Lancaster Canal feeds the Wyre? I really don't think it does, you know, because it goes from Preston all the way up to the Lake District. It doesn't feed the Fylde at all. So I don't think so. I think that the Lancashire Post has said, oh, hold on, I have to reshare my screen. The Lancashire Post said all these adverts. Stop it. So he'd been returning home one night as a pillion passenger on a friend's motorbike when they crashed into a car on a narrow bridge in Woodplumpton near Preston. The bike rider was badly injured and unconscious. It was 3 a.m. before police were alerted that someone was missing and returned to the bridge, which was over a fast-flowing stream in flood. So I think it's a stream, not a canal. But whichever water source he fell into. It was one that fed into the wire because his body, over 2 months later, what's going on here? Over 2 months later, was found at Shard Bridge. So, which is here. So he had to be in the wire to get to Shard Bridge. That's Shard Bridge. And then that a bit further up, there's another set of sandbanks at Shippool, and then it starts to estuary out into you can see just how silty and sandy it is, all the way into Morecambe Bay. So I just thought that was an interesting story. It's absolutely tragic. I'm glad that Roger's family have spoken out, you know, and offered some words of comfort to Nicola's family, because they know exactly what they're going through. And it's also an interesting story for people who don't believe that Nicola could have got, you know, towards the sea. Her body could have been washed away towards the sea. They think that, you know, Lancashire police are mad for keep searching the sea. Yeah, I'm telling you about a similar case that happened in the same river on the same day 45 years ago. It says it in the title, The Tragic Case of Roger Jones. I'm talking about 16-year-old Roger Jones, this young man here, this young man, who unfortunately, after a tragic accident, ended up in a stream 6 miles away from St. Michael's, and his body was washed downstream in this little stream into the River Wyre. And then 2 months later, it surfaced in out towards the coast at a place called Shard Bridge, which is full of sandbanks. So it's not another person that's gone missing who could have been abducted. This is 45 years ago, but the circumstances are very similar. And Roger's family have spoken out in the press to offer some words of comfort to Nicola's family, because they know exactly what Nicola is going through, or the family are going through. So we know her family's pain, says Preston family, who lost a son in the same stretch of river on the same day 45 years ago. But it's not even the same stretch of river. Roger's body ended up in the same stretch of river, but not until his body had floated 6 miles down a stream which fed into the River Wyre. His body then went 7 miles from where the River Wyre is fed into to Shard Bridge, which is near the estuary. So the power of nature cannot be underestimated. I'm not scared of any living human. I have no fear of any living human at all. But when it comes to nature, I have a huge respect for the natural environment, for water, for how fragile life is, for the animals that live in nature. I have a huge respect for them, much more respect than I do for the human race, because what the human race does, present company accepted, of course, what the human race does in circumstances like this is they don't think that nature has any power. They think it's impossible that a body can flow down a river towards the sea, because that could never happen. It's impossible. Even experts say it's impossible, so it can't possibly happen, except it happens. A little boy drowned in the River Wyre much more recently than Roger's case. Now, fair dues, he was further downriver than St Michael's, but guess where his body washed up? Shard Bridge. Because that's what the river does. It silts up so much, it's sandy. It's got huge sandbanks that have built up over many, many, many years, and all sorts washes up, either at Shard Bridge or at Shippool. So this area where it's all really, really sandy. Shippool's there, Shard Bridge is there, and then it starts to go out into the estuary and then into Morecambe Bay. But the police divers are let me turn the sound off. Police divers have been out in Morecambe Bay today, and they're concentrating their search now in the estuary and in the bay, because they've got advice from the Coast Guards, from academics who understand the currents in that area, and they still believe that Nicola is in the river, and they want to search the coastlines. And in the press conference on Tuesday, was it? Or Thursday? Yeah, 2 days ago, they said that, they want people to be looking out from Knott End to Morecambe, because that's where, if she makes it out into the sea, that's where a body may wash up. But in my opinion, I think if a body's going to wash up, it's probably stuck in a sandbank. Never, ever lose respect for water. It's a terrifying force of nature. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. Totally. How can they find her in the sea? It's not going to happen. Except people are found in the sea. Why do you think Coast Guards exist? They go and find people in the sea. Because if you're looking in an area, if you understand the tides and the tidal patterns, you'll know in what direction a body is likely to flow in. But as I said, in my opinion, given previous cases of bodies that have flowed down the wire, it seems to be that they get stuck in sandbanks before they go out to sea. But the police have got to cover all bases. Just like they're looking for people with dash cam footage, they've also got to consider the possibility, however small it might be, that she's got all the way out to Morecambe Bay. They wouldn't be doing their job right if they didn't consider all bases. Even if they think it's unlikely that her body has got as far as Morecambe Bay, they've still got to check. And also, the Coast Guards are doing daily checks. The helicopters up and down the river. It took 2 months for Roger Jones to be found. He was in a little stream and then floating down the River Wyre for 2 months, from January 27th until Easter 1978. It took Roger Jones all that time to end up being washed up at Shard Bridge. So when people say after 13 days she's not in the river because she'd have been found by now, is absolute, utter, complete tripe. It's dog shit. It's absolutely, it's nonsensical. You do not understand nature. You've not looked at previous cases. You've not. You don't understand. What you're doing is you're hearing galloping hooves, and instead of seeing horses, you're seeing supernatural unicorns that have come through some kind of time lapse. And I can't deal with it. I just can't. But I did say I wasn't going to get snarky today. So I'm going to stop that line of thought before I get snarky. But that's what the police are doing today. And they would, yes, they're still appealing for dashcam footage. Although she's not left the riverside. I'll tell you she's not left the riverside. And she could well be as far as the sea by now, or more likely she's stuck in a sandbank. But the police would not be doing their job proper if they did not check all bases. That's why they're asking for dashcam footage in St. Michael's. That's why they're searching out as far as the sea. And all of these people on Twitter who are berating them, you can go and F yourself. Just go and F yourself, because they are working so hard. And if you don't believe me, I don't know what else to tell you. I honestly do not know what else to tell you. But I'm going to go soon because I want to catch the Murdoch trial. I mean, imagine if the Roger Jones case had happened in the world of social media. Imagine the conspiracy theories of a 16-year-old being flung over a bridge and completely disappearing. Imagine that. They would have been saying that he's been caught in a wormhole or a supernatural event has happened. They would be saying that. And then they'd have complete egg on their face that 2 months later his body turns up at Shard Bridge. But I don't know. I don't know. All these people are insane. It's insane. Yeah, so the media are reporting that they're searching for it in the sea. Tinfoil hats at the ready, Samantha. I know. I do like it. I mean, I've got to say, I do like a good conspiracy theory. I do like a good conspiracy theory, but when it's real people, and you know, they're even saying that Nicola Bulley didn't exist and this is all a psyop. You know, it's the psyop theorists have started now. I can't deal with it. I can't deal with it when it gets ridiculous and it's real people that these idiots are talking about. Huge respect for Roger Jones's family. Huge respect for them speaking out and trying to get people to understand what Nicola's family are going through, because they've been through exactly the same thing, but also to, you know, to just try to get across just how powerful nature is. And Nicola absolutely could have got over the weir and downstream towards the sea. People, I know. And yet, what is one of the major causes of death in adults? Accidents. But yet people, I don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's some kind of defense mechanism. There's obviously a psychology behind it. I don't know whether it's because the internet just feeds drama and people have to, you know, tune in for the next installment, and it's like a soap opera. So the channels who are feeding the best, you know, the best episodes are getting all the views. So that makes them carry on doing it because they're getting views and money, and they keep doing it, because just saying it's a simple accident doesn't create the amount of drama and the amount of interest. It doesn't. And then the people who can't accept that accidents happen, you know, above and beyond this soap opera notion that people have, they think that, I don't know, do they think that somehow they're immune? Like they need to think they're immune, that an accident cannot possibly happen by somebody slipping and falling into a river. But how many thousands of people who learnt to cross the road when they were 3 or 5 or whatever get knocked over by cars every year? Because you think it won't happen to you, so you become complacent and you step out without looking both ways, like you were taught when you were a kid. You become complacent. And maybe somebody like Nicola, who was that used to walking by that river, was just a little bit complacent, a little bit absent-minded, and she slipped. And there's nothing more to it than that. I don't know what else to tell you. And it's the people who live closest to nature, or who have had a similar experience, like Roger's family, who can see this. And everybody else who's looking at nothing, doesn't know anything about the phenomena of drowning, doesn't know anything about the power of rivers, and doesn't want to learn. The important thing is they don't want to learn. They'd rather tune in to the next episode of the soap opera that's feeding their conspiracy theory. And it's really sad, and it's a little bit sick. I have to tell you, it's a little bit sick. There is, though. I mean, I don't know whether they could go to the doctors and get a pill for it, or they just need to go and lie down in a darkened room till it goes away. I don't know. Thank you, Down Under with Love. Thank you so much. The snark shark. That's great. Thank you for the 10 Australian dollars. That's very kind of you. Why is this case snowballed so quickly? I don't know. Yeah, some cases do. I mean, look at Summer Wells. Like, if you followed the case of Summer Wells out of Tennessee, you know, her case, certainly on social media, not necessarily in the real world, but on social media, became massive. It's not so much now, but the first year, it was massive. Yeah, little Michael Vaughan, who went missing a month later, didn't get a tenth of the interest that Summer's case got. Kylie Rodney, look at the amount of interest in that. Gabby Petito, look at the amount of interest in that case. I mean, that was unusual. I have to say, that was unusual. I don't know. The Idaho case, the Idaho 4. I think it's when it's unusual, and people start feeding each other. Now, granted, I haven't seen as many YouTube channels cover this case because it's a UK case, and not as many YouTube channels cover UK cases. But if this was an American case, can you imagine how big this case would be now on YouTube? You know, once you get a few conspiracy theorists, they all feed each other. And that's definitely what I've seen on Twitter. Like, the conspiracy crowd are all feeding into each other. So they're not getting a dose of reality every now and again, because they want to ignore what really could have happened, and then come into my comments and tell me that I'm the one who's blinkered and I'm the one who's not looking at things properly. And I tell them, look, if you can give me actual evidence, new evidence, actual real evidence that something other than her falling in the river happened that can explain it better than that, I'll listen. because I've got no skin in the game. If Nicola has been abducted, I want her abducted to court, and I'll be out there looking for that person. But I do not think in this case she has been abducted. I don't know why people are wanting to have some kind of horrible death befall her. Is drowning not horrible enough? Do you want her to have been raped and tortured and dismembered? Do you want that? Is that better? Is that better for your soap opera than somebody falling in a river and drowning? Is that what you want? Or is it simply that you're not really thinking about it? And you come into my comments telling me I'm blinkered. It's actually you guys who are not looking at the facts of the case. 4 YouTubers have covered this case as far as I've seen. I think I've seen 2. Oh, 3. 3, and then someone told me that Doug Bishop was on Tyler's channel last night, and I forgot to go and look at it. So yeah, that would be 4. That would be the 4 that I've seen. So it's not many, is it? Given all of the YouTube channels that covered Idaho, all the channels that covered Summer Wells, all the channels. I mean, how many channels covered Kylie Rodney? Like The World and His Wife covered Kylie Rodney. But UK cases don't seem to grip. I think it's probably because, I mean, 70% of my audience is American. So maybe people think that Americans are not going to be interested. But yeah, my people that watch my channel seem to be interested in it. So, you know, it's huge in the UK. It's huge. Everybody's talking about it in the UK. But yeah, and I'm a bit glad actually that YouTube hasn't taken this and run with it, because I can avoid Twitter very easily, and I very rarely check Reddit. Reddit's just a nightmare. So it's easy for me to avoid having you know, some kind of heart attack because I get so mad at the comments. But yeah. Human interest, yeah. Human interest. There you go. In Virginia. Get them told. Yeah, get them told. There you go. Australia. Down Under with Love is in Australia as well. I have a few Australians. I think it's America, Canada, UK, Australia, South Africa. Those are the 5 where I get most of my views from. But by far, America's biggest. And then possibly UK, then Canada, then Australia, then South Africa. That's the 5, and then there's a handful from other countries as well. But anyway, guys, I said this one was going to be shorter than the lives that I've been doing over the last week or so. I just wanted to bring you Roger's case, and you know, just say, please be kind to Nicola's family and friends. Don't spread the nonsense. Don't spread the conspiracy theories. Don't even, I don't know. I can't tell you what not to read or what not to watch. I can't do that. But all I can say is I'll still be here trying to cover things as factually and as logically as I can. And I'm never going to descend into nonsense just to get views. And you know, I've got 352 people in the chat right now, and if I started saying that Nicola Bulley has disappeared down a time warp or she'd been abducted by aliens, I'd get twice, 3 times, 4 times the views. And I'd probably feel sick and I'd hate myself. So this is why I'm here giving you the facts as I see them. So I'm pleased that Roger's family have spoken out. I'm pleased that they've been able to offer Nicola's family some comfort and really just to get across to people that nature's a beautiful, but a cruel beast. Beautifully cruel is nature, and give her the most respect you possibly can. Thank you so much, sweet Connie, for the £4.99. That's very kind of you. Don and Candice are in court today, aren't they? I don't know what time. What time will it be in Tennessee? So it's going to be like nearly 1 o'clock in Tennessee. But yeah, Don and Candice are in court today. So I'm hoping that there's going to be some news about what happened later. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being respectful in chat. I have tried to keep the snark down as much as I could in this one. Thank you to the moderators, as always. Thank you to the people who've donated, as always. I'm going back to the Murdoch trial now. So I'll see you very soon. Bye, guys.